Um,
Now you're.
what the something crashed downstairs.
Oh, that's fun.
Comforting. All right, you want to record? Say when to record.
Yeah,
This is our very official way of recording. Go ahead.
1, 2, 3, record.
It didn't work.
Okay. Hello. Oh, mine's being really small too. Weird. Do I need to stop and redo it anyway for you?
Did I send you Rim's interview already?
I don't think so. Nope.
Sorry,
she did.
She did. She's much more on top of it than I am. Okay, give me 1 second. Sorry, it wouldn't connect to my thing because I had Audacity pulled up from before. No.
It's funny. Hello. It's a little better. Oh, my microphone looks weird. Oh, my dog keeps shocking me, and it hurts.
No.
Look, it must be lots of static electricity in the air.
Yeah. Great.
Why is that so tiny?
I think I'm ready.
Mine is super tiny, but we're gonna hope that it's good.
Do you want to test it?
I'm just gonna close it and redo it. Might as well if we're already here. Hello. It's still small. I don't know what to say.
Testing. Mine's always small, so
hopefully it'll be fine. Let's go there. Okay. 1, 2, 3, record.
All right. There we go. Oh, 1, 2, 3. That's how we line up our audio.
There you go.
All right, do you want me to start?
Yeah, go for it.
Welcome back to another episode of the In Raw Life podcast. I'm so excited to introduce you to our next entrepreneur who also happens to be one of my cousins. Well, cousins-in-law, but we're
same.
We've been
Who needs the in-law?
Same.
Yes. But before we do that, I just want to remind you to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. That helps our podcast to grow and get into more ears and help more women, which is what we're all about.
And if you want to be a bigger part of our community and you find yourself as an entrepreneur or a busy woman or just someone who wants better work-life balance in their life and to enjoy life more, make sure that you get on Facebook and join our group, Work-Life Balance for Empowered Unstoppable Women, whether you identify with that yet or not. And you can join us. We're a really cool community. We go live every week with little tiny nuggets to just like help you along the way, keeping you accountable. And it's a really special place to be. So make sure you get in there.
That's so funny that you say whether you identify with that or not, because I feel like that's an amazing place to start out. Because Ariel and I were just talking before we called about imposter syndrome and how, because this is the second podcast that Ariel's done in like what?
Just a week. Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny.
Friends asked her to be on her show as well. And she was like, her first thought was like, wait, who am I? So I think that's a great place to start. So, well, actually, no, let's not start there. Let's start with who you are and what you do.
Yeah, because I don't know enough yet.
Yeah, okay, I'll give you a little background. So actually tomorrow will mark the 4 years of my barbershop's opening.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
So
which is
exciting.
great. Yes, super exciting. Yeah, so 4 years ago, I decided to kind of just go out on my own and to open my own barbershop. I've been in the industry for, I guess, about 10 years now. I started out doing like more women's hair. I worked in a salon for a little while, like when I went to school, and then just kind of just wasn't like a right fit for me. So I switched over to a barbershop doing primarily like men's hair. But I don't even narrow it down to just men's hair. I do like short hairstyles, you know. So I was working at a barbershop previously to opening this up for about 5 years, and we'll kind of get into that and what like led me to open up my own barbershop, because it was never like a dream for me. I never was like, I'm gonna open up my own barbershop and have my own place. Kind of this came out of necessity, essentially, of where I was at in my life, and I came to this threshold moment of I need to make a choice here, and that kind of led me to this direction to where I'm at now. Um, so yeah, so 4 years into being a business owner, which again feels so funny to say. I
Uh-huh.
don't feel bad at all, but I have to. I'm learning to own it. I'm learning to give myself a pat on the back and be like, yeah, this is good. You're doing it. Type of thing.
Yeah. That's so cool. And then just like, I don't know, little personal details. 'Cause we don't know a whole lot about you. Like, are you married? Are you with someone? Do you have kids? Do you not have kids? Like
Yes,
what's like
yeah. So
life
no kids.
with all of that?
I'm married. It'll be 5 years in June. I have an amazing partner. Um, I can't say enough good things about him, really. He is, someone that just, when he stepped into my life, like that opened my world up. He really just created this safe space for me to kind of step into my own. I had struggled for a really long time with anxiety and also bouts of depression, a lot of insecurity, a lot of self-consciousness. And when he came into my life, that was when that it really opened up for me, and I started to just kind of step into, like, what I like to say is like more of my most authentic self. So I have an amazing partner, and he's great. He's an electrician by trade, but when we made this decision to open up the barbershop, he kind of rethought his path and what he wanted to do, and he kind of realized, like, this isn't my passion, this isn't what I want to do. So he left his job and helped me, side by side open up the barbershop, and now he's kind of like figuring out his path and what he wants to do.
Aw.
So he's great. I grew up in a small town, Gloucester City, New Jersey. Great little town, blue collar town, super small. I went to Catholic school from 3 years old to all the way through high school, essentially. So not a lot of uh, diversity, I guess you could say. A
Uh-huh.
lot of just a lot of the same people and everything like that, which was good. But I never quite felt like I like fit or like found my spot. So once I was out of high school and just kind of got out on my own, and still I still trying to kind of find my place and find my spot. I think that's always a process.
Yes. Yes,
It's
definitely.
so
Yeah.
funny to hear you say that because, like, coming into this family as like it is a small town. Like, I live in a small town now, and like I just see, and I feel like your family has like all of their stuff not
Hmm.
together, but it's just like you guys seem like you don't care, and to feel like I'm coming in brand new, I'm like, oh my
Sure.
gosh, I gotta start fresh, and just to know that you've been here this whole time and
Yeah.
still feel like I don't know if I found my spot. Like,
Yeah.
that's comforting because I feel like how am I ever gonna find it? Like, I'm brand new. I don't fit into this tiny, like, Irish Catholic town sometimes.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's, I don't know. I'm like grateful that you
Yeah.
that you also suffer
Yeah,
from
feel
feeling
feel
alone.
that same way. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've definitely felt that, of just like not quite, fitting into that, sort
Well,
of
that's
space.
like with the whole imposter syndrome thing. It's like we all feel that way. That's the whole point. Like, no matter how much you look like you fit in somewhere, or like you've been somewhere your whole life, or whatever it is, like I think we all have that.
Yeah. But
And
not
it's
a lot
kind
of
of
people
like
are willing.
embracing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and not a lot of people are willing to like open up and share that, right? So how
Hmm.
are we to know that anybody else is going through the same thing unless someone comes along and says, like, hey, I'm kind of struggling here a little bit, and I
Uh-huh.
don't like feel so great, but and unless someone comes forward to do that, then like, oh, actually I feel that way too. I'm not alone. I'm not the only person. So I think I was saying to Ciara before this, like, how important I think it is to just share. Even though I have these like nerves and I feel fearful and I'm a little worried and anxious about what people will think of me, you know, if I could reach just one person, and
Hmm.
this create some sort of shift in their life, or something to be impactful, some positive come out of that, then I'm like, that's worth it. That's important.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly why we started the podcast. I love it.
Yeah.
So let me hear, yeah, what was you want to like dive into imposter syndrome with all of this and the journey. So what did you have, Ciara? Or what were you thinking? Yeah.
Oh, actually, well, what I was gonna say, I mean, maybe I'm not sure if this leads to the imposter syndrome or not, but like, what can you share your story of what was going on at your previous barbershop, and like how that led you to starting your own place?
Yeah. So I like Ciara had told me, one of the questions that she, wanted to kind of share was like what's like a real raw moment, that you're willing to open up and share about. And I kind of sat last night and just really reflected on that. And I think what a good moment to kind of share is like what led me to, the decision to kind of go out on my own and to open up my own business. So like I said, I was at a barber shop previously, and I started at this barbershop when I was about 21, so super naive, really young, really not quite aware yet of like what the norm was in this industry and what was like appropriate for work and what was not appropriate for work. So, there were things that went on that I was like, this doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like this should be going on here. Like, I feel like disrespected. I don't feel appreciated, but I started there and I really enjoyed the people that I worked with. I loved the people that I worked with, and I started to build up a really good clientele for myself, which was amazing. But the barbershop was very poorly mismanaged. It became very toxic, but I stuck it out for quite some time just because I didn't really know, what were my other options. I didn't really consider any other options. I mean, to be honest, for the longest time, all I really thought about was just I want to get married, I want to have babies, and I want to stay at home and do all that. So I never really considered any other options. But over the years, it started to kind of mount, and my anxiety really increased, and that brought on, these bouts of depression. And I really was doing my best to hide that. I did not want to share it. I felt really self-conscious about it. I was worried that if I were to tell my husband, like he's going to be like, you're a weak-minded person and I don't want to be with you, which is not at all who he is, but that's just like where I was at internally and where I was at mentally. Um, way to go until it really, like I said, it just got increasingly worse. My depression got worse. I would call out of work on days that I knew, this one specific manager would be in because I couldn't handle it. I didn't know what else to do. I didn't, I didn't know, didn't know how to handle it when I was in this situation, and it would make me react in ways that I'm like, this is not who I am. This is not who I want to be. Like I would get really angry and have these outbursts, and I'm like, this is not bringing out the best in me by any means. Um, so like that really started to increase. I would call out. I would stay in bed 15 hours a day. I wouldn't get out of bed. I'd be sleeping all day. I mean, I remember one time, like my husband had left for work, and I was just like curled up in a ball on the floor, just crying. I'm like, this can't go on any longer. So I remember one night, my younger brother used to come to our house, and we would just have like these conversations about life, and really open up and talk about these things, which was really nice. So it was me, my husband, my brother sitting there one night, and I just had like a breakdown, like hysterically, body shaking, like crying. And I would just kind of opened up. I'm like, I'm not happy. I don't think I can do this anymore. And I was met with, just compassion and understanding. And then I felt uh, like this weight was starting to really lift off of me. So we started to kind of talk a little bit about like, well, what are the options? What can I do? I can go to another shop. I could cycle through and see if I find something that works for me. Or maybe we do our own thing, which was so scary. Like at this point, I'm 25, turned 26, and I'm like, I don't have any business experience. Like I didn't go to college, I don't have a degree, but I also knew from being in this environment, this workspace, that I knew what not to do. I knew how not to treat people. I knew how not to go about things because that didn't seem to work to me at all. So not long after like having that conversation, there was a situation that came up, and I was like, that's it. I would rather just live in a cardboard box, be poor, than to go to this job one more day of my life. Like I cannot do this anymore. So that was it. I quit. This was like 4 months before our wedding. And I was like, that's it. I'm quitting my job. and Eric and I, really talked it out. And we're like, I think the next move is to open up our own shop. So I was like, okay. So we sold our house and we moved into my mother-in-law's a month before our wedding. And that kind of gave us the capital to, open up the barbershop. So we get married and, start looking and, start making the moves to do this. And like I said before, like I don't have any experience, but there's this small voice down that was like, you can do this, it was so small, but it was also like, you can do this, you can, it's going to take some work, but you can do this. And I was just kind of thrown into being really uncomfortable, but also like finding like this empowerment within myself, like I can, what, yeah, I can do this. It's going to take a lot of hard work, but yeah, you know what? I think that like I'm a good person and I think I know like what kind of environment that I want to set up. And I think that I can create this and do this. So I just kind of like sat down day in and day out on the computer, got myself a notebook and just started researching, like how to open a barbershop. Like just start there, essentially. And then we were, finally able to open up. And like I said, tomorrow is like 4 years, so here we are, which is
So
crazy.
obviously it was a great decision.
Yeah, it was absolutely, one of the best decisions that I ever made. It has propelled my growth than I could ever say. If I didn't make that choice, right? I could look back on it. And if I had just stayed there, just because it was like I say this all the time, that people will stay with what they know, even if it's unhealthy, because they know what to expect, right? The unknown is so scary, right? So I could have just stayed there and just continued on, but like where would I be? I just would have slowly deteriorated. And that was happening to me. So I had to like make this new choice for myself, which was really difficult, really, really difficult. But I'm glad that I did. And I kind of showed myself like, you can take on challenges and you can accomplish them. And the more that you do that, the more resilient you become, and the more you grow. And I think that's so important to just life, really. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And like if you saw her barbershop too, it's not like just a barbershop in a hole in the wall. Like it's gorgeous with
Yeah, I remember
there's,
looking
like,
it up.
subway tiles and
Yeah.
like everything was so like she planned everything
super
down
cute.
to like the finest detail.
That
and
was
it's
one of my
beautiful.
thank you. That was one of my favorite parts, definitely, was just kind of creating the design, right? And like I said, so I sat down from the beginning and I really had to draw out like what was my intention for this? What did I want it to look like? What did I want it to feel like? All of these things, and just become super, super clear so that as things kind of rolled on and, some things popped up and I felt maybe outside pressures to change it or to be something else, I could stay like, no, this was my vision. This is my plan. Stay with this, It might not be the most popular. It might not be, you're not going to blow up and be famous on Instagram, which is fine because that's not like, that wasn't my, thing. It was just honestly, it was just to create a space that I could go to work every day and not feel anxious or depressed. That was my main goal.
I love how you talked about like too how you don't have any business skill. You didn't go to college, and yet you just like I think so many times we put this pressure on ourselves of like what we have to accomplish. And I think that's where imposter syndrome really comes in. Like, oh, well, I don't have a degree in business. Like, how am I supposed to do
Absolutely.
this?
And if I had listened to that, then I wouldn't have moved forward or done any of that. But like you have to have, I think, this belief in yourself that you can accomplish, whatever it is that you want to do. And I, try to tell people that all the time. I'm like, I didn't have that, I didn't have any skills, but I learned them and like put myself out there and I tried, I put the hard work in and like, and you can do that too. Like, totally can do that.
Yeah, I feel like from your story, the two things that shined through the most were clarity, like you knew what you wanted and you didn't care what anybody else said because you had your vision, and then perseverance.
Perseverance, yeah, absolutely.
Like you just had to keep going.
Yeah.
You could have bailed out and been like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm an idiot for even trying, but you didn't. You kept going.
Right. I think from the beginning, like I gave myself like there is no option to fail. There's no option. I'm just gonna just keep going until I succeed, and however long it takes, and whatever I have to do, I'm going to do it. Like, and that was just my belief. Like, I just set that in stone, and I went from there. And I think that's really important, because what you believe, you think about, and then you manifest, that kind of all ties together, right? So having that belief of like, this is going to work. And then that was it. There was no other options. No options for failure there. It was just keep going, keep moving forward, keep, pushing yourself past your comfort zones, and keep doing the things that you have to do. I think about it a lot too. Like, I had anxiety about making phone calls before this, right? And now I was in this situation where now it's all on me. Like, I have to, talk to the township. I have to like get a license, and I'm like, I could barely make a phone call. How am I gonna do this? Like, how am I really gonna do this? But you do. You do it, and then you get the momentum, and then you start going, and then you're like, oh, that really wasn't as bad as I had it built up in my head, Once you get that momentum, once you try, something one time, then you could see like, okay, it's not so bad. Like doing a my second podcast in a week. I'm like, okay, I think I can talk. I think I can great. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Well, that's interesting because it's like, I mean, I was the same way. Like I'm not an anxious person, but I used to have major phone anxiety. But now it's like, okay, I want the result from it. So I got to do this. And then I do it, and it's great. And like, I feel better after it. So
absolutely.
Like doing the uncomfortable things, feel like it helps you grow and become that next person.
Absolutely. Because it's only temporarily are you going to feel that discomfort, and it will pass. It really will pass. But so much of the time, at least for me personally, I build up in my head this whole story, this whole other reality, and it is never as bad as whatever I can come up with in my head. So I started to realize that slowly but surely, like, just put that aside and just take a step and to do it.
I found with that recently too, like when I start to feel myself building the anxiety, like the longer I wait to do it, the bigger the story
exactly
becomes. So I've started just like tackling it the second I realize like, oh, I'm making this out to be scary. Just do it. Just do it.
Take the action and do it.
Once it's done, it's like, oh my gosh, thank God I didn't waste another week until the deadline, because I would have just been a mess by the deadline.
Sure, just worrying and thinking and all of that, playing it all out. But as soon as you just take that action, set things into motion, and then you realize like, oh, okay, that's not that bad.
Yeah,
I got this. Yeah,
exactly.
Not so bad.
Do you mind talking at all about, because you said that you weren't treated well and that you know what not to do. Do you mind sharing any of that, just so like, because like you said, when you went into it, you didn't realize, like, you didn't know what to expect, so you didn't necessarily know that it was wrong.
That it was wrong, sure.
So can you talk about like some things that if women are in these situations, that they can know like this is not the way it's supposed to be?
I haven't really spoke much about this in such a long time, just because when I did leave that situation, I was like, I just want to leave this behind me, but there was a lot of toxic masculinity in there, and from what it felt like to me was like this, like the 1950s, right? Like, you need to dress a certain way, like we want you to be very feminine, and better come in and have full face and makeup and all, and that's fine, right? That's okay for women who want to choose to do that, and that's who they are. And at that time I was like kind of okay, because I still was like trying to figure myself out, so that was like part of like what I did. But then I started to kind of get away from that. Like I said, when I met my husband, that was when I really was like, I want to come into my own self now, and that I started to kind of change the clothes that I wore. And as I would kind of change, I really liked clothes that were like baggy, not as form-fitting, and I'd wear that into work, and they'd be like, what are you wearing? Like, you cannot wear that, like, that's disgusting, no one wants to see you in that, like take that sweater off, kind of thing. I'm just like, what? Like, what do you mean? That type of deal. And there's just like a lot of like inappropriate, talk about, they make comments like, oh, my body. I'm like, that's just not, that's not appropriate. I don't think that's right, and when I would voice these things, they'd be like, you signed up for this. This is a barbershop. You signed up to work with men. This is how men operate. And on the inside, I'm like, I know men that don't operate like this. I know men that don't treat women like this. So it can't be all. They're like, no, all men are like this. I'm like, I refuse to believe that. I refuse to believe that all men act like this, all men talk like this, all men treat women like this, because I don't think that's true. So that started to escalate, and like I said, like I would just have these outbursts because I didn't know how to handle it. I internally I'm like, this isn't right, but everybody there was kind of dealing with it, and I was being told that this is how it is in a barbershop and this is how the environment is, but it just was like, this is not sitting right with me. And it started to kind of slowly build, which caused all of that anxiety where I'm like, I don't want to be treated like this, I don't want to do this anymore. And kind of led me to, right, like opening my own space. And when I sat down, I was like, okay, what do I want it to feel like here? And I'm like, I want everyone to feel comfortable when they come in. I want everyone to feel welcome when they come in. I want my employees to feel appreciated and respected and cared for, because everybody has to go to work, right? We all have to do something to make a living. And I just didn't think that you have to go to work and feel stressed out and anxiety every day, about how you're going to be treated by your management. That just didn't sit well for me. So that's when it just boiled over. It was like 5 years of that, and it was like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
So
I like how you spelled out, because I mean, for people listening who like want to start their own business or like eventually want to be an entrepreneur or something, like hearing, oh, these are great ideas of, I should like understand how I want people to feel and how I want the environment to look like and feel. Because sometimes you don't think about that. You're just like, oh, like I'm a good person and I want to start a business and I'll have cool people working for me. But like really getting what you want it to feel like for everybody is super important.
Yeah, and I think just the act of writing that down like solidifies it. You know what I mean? Then it becomes tangible, then it becomes real, and then it becomes something that you can act upon. So having written that down, then I was like, okay, now this is what I'm going to go off of. And when I would feel kind of outside pressures from like social media to be posting and have a specific look to everything, and I'm like, well, I just want to come from an authentic place, and like we're a hometown barbershop, and that's just where I wanted to be, not coming at it from a place of like, I want to be famous and I want to be rich, because that's just like that wasn't where I was coming from.
And I know you personally are impossible to get an appointment with. Are the rest of the barbers?
I mean, like, so grateful for the business that we have in this shop. It has really bloomed into something, and so like having that, right, this plan of what I wanted it to be, and now it has manifested into that. Like people come in and they get this experience and they can feel that the environment is welcome and friendly because of the way that like me and my staff like interact with each other. There's no animosity there, there's no tension there. Like, who wants to go in and sit down and have your hair cut when you can like cut the tension with a knife, or like there's people fighting and like the employees are fighting and arguing like with each other over the customers. Like, that's what it was at my old shop. I'm like, who wants to deal with that? So it was really important just to like give a good experience, and I think that's alone speaks for itself. So like since the first year of my business, like I haven't paid to market because we're just word of mouth. I think if someone comes in, they have a good experience, then they want to go and they want to tell somebody about it. And that's just kind of like where we're at now. So yeah, my staff is amazing. Like, I can't say enough good things about them. They're awesome. And we're doing really well, so it's nice.
And it feels like a family when you walk in there too, which is cool. Like, it definitely, my mom's a hairdresser, so like I've seen the other side.
Sure, yeah.
Like, oh, these people do not like each other.
We spend a lot of time with each other, right? 10 hours a day we're there together, 5 days a week. So when you're sitting next to a person for all that time, and like when I mean sit next to them, like, and we're close all day long. So whatever conversations they're having, I'm hearing. So it was so important to me too that when I brought people in, that personalities really meshed. I had outside people giving me advice like, just get bodies in there. You just want to get these chairs filled. You want to get people working. Who cares what they're like? I'm like, I care. I have to work with them all day long. Like, I care.
Yeah.
I want to get along with the people that I'm with, and I want there to be like a good camaraderie there. And I think that's important because, like I said, you can go in and you can feel that tension, And then our space is so small, it's like 450 square feet. So if we're not getting along and a customer comes in and sits down and we're arguing with each other, like that's so uncomfortable. That's so uncomfortable. So yeah, it was very important to me to have like a crew of people that really meshed well. And I'm so fortunate that I do. I have a great crew of people. Yeah, they're amazing.
That's awesome.
I want to know, what would you say, like, since you started the business, what has been the biggest challenge?
The biggest challenge, I think really it's just like for me personally, is just like putting myself out there and putting my work out there and, allowing it to get recognized and to like kind of be known, because I'm a pretty introverted person and I'm not really like big on being out there and kind of being seen. So that's been a really big challenge for me, is to just allow that, to be out there and to be seen, and accept like when people say you're doing a good job. Like that's really hard for me. Like I'm just like, I don't know what I'm doing. That's definitely a big challenge. And again, I think just staying true to like what the original vision is and not succumb to the pressures of social media and what else you're seeing out there. Because it's easy to go on there and compare yourself to other places, other people. And I've done that, but uh, if you do that and then you say like, oh, this is what they're doing and they're successful with it, let me do the same thing, it's not coming across as genuine or authentic at all. And people can see that, people can read that, so it's been a challenge just to continue to stay just with what my original vision was, and to continue on with that.
I meant to ask, when you left the other barbershop, did any other women feel like the same and go to?
Yes. So I was the first one to leave the shop. So there was how many other people? I think maybe 7 other barbers that I worked with at the time, and they all left.
Really?
It like slowly, they all left, and I think maybe 1, 2, 3 other ones opened up their own shops
No way.
after me. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was like, I started that wave, I did that.
Yeah.
Such a big scary thing.
It was.
You didn't take that big scary step. Like they may not.
None of them.
I absolutely. I mean, I think that they kind of like saw me and they're like, well, she can do it. I can do it, right? Because again, like I was this young person. I was 25 turned 26, and I was the youngest one in there at the time. They were all older than me, so I feel like they saw that and they were like, okay, like she got out of here. She's successful. She's doing her thing. Like I can do that too. Actually, one of my employees was one of the girls that I worked with at that shop, and she left and she came over and worked with me. And I'm like, and from the beginning when I first left, I'm like, get out. Everybody get out. Like, why is anybody else tolerating this anymore? But slowly and surely, like everyone left. Yeah. So they had to rebuild their entire staff. So I think that kind of that speaks for itself.
Yeah.
That poorly managed work environment, people are not going to stay. You can give them all the money in the world.
Yeah.
It's not worth it.
But also shows, like, for anybody listening, if you have this little like inkling in your heart that you should do something big and brave, but it seems super scary, like you just don't know the trickle down effect of taking that bold step. Like it could be, and don't think worst case scenario.
No.
Yeah. Why are you thinking what could go wrong? Why don't you think what could go right?
What can go right?
And in your case, so much went right for you and these 7 other women. Like that's incredible.
Yeah, it's affected their whole lives, and then most other lives that they touch.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's people who you don't even know that it's now affected their life for the positive.
Absolutely.
Imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Exactly. Imposter syndrome, imposter syndrome, whatever.
But that's a really good point of like, I've struggled with that too, like always thinking like worst case scenario, right? And it wasn't until like more recently that like I've learned to like what can go right? I've never, I'm like, oh, I don't know, I never thought of that. Like I just always go on the what's the wrong side, but what could go right? And then you think about that, like, well, what could go right, and that I could make a positive impact on somebody's life. I'm like, how, that's so powerful. I want to do that. I want to be that. And then I hope that this person can gain the courage to, do that for themselves and again, trickle down and, affect other people. So I think that's really
You know,
powerful.
that's interesting using that question because I used the question a lot with my daughter who like potentially has like slight anxiety about things of like, well, what's the worst that's going to happen? Because like that's what I've read and like, you know, you ask, okay, what's the worst that's going to happen when you figure that
It's
out?
good to do
Okay,
that.
that's also something that we can do. But maybe I should start asking her like, what's the best that's going to happen if you do this thing that you're scared about?
I think it's
Maybe I
great
should
to
switch
pose
it.
both
Yeah,
questions as opposed to, so then you have some flexibility within
the
your thinking.
spectrum.
Right. Yeah. So if you only always say, well, what's the best that can happen? Well, that's like kind of rigid. If you always say, what's the worst can happen?
Uh-huh.
Like that's kind of rigid. But then you open it up, you say, well, what's the best? What's the worst? And then sometimes right in that in between spot, so it's good,
Yeah.
to have that flexibility with your thinking. It's definitely something that I've been working on. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. You're not alone there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I wanted to ask one more question before we go to our lightning round. Unless, like, you might have had. Do you have any other questions, Jess? Okay. What of your entire business as it is now, what are you most proud of?
I would say just like the team that I have built there and the atmosphere and the environment that we have. That is something that I'm the most proud of because leaving that other space, that was the one thing that was so negative for me, was the way that it operated there and how toxic it became. And my biggest thing was I just want to be somewhere where I can do what I like with people that I enjoy in a space that feels comfortable. So I am very proud that I have created that exact atmosphere, that exact space. And I hope that, when people come there that they feel that. And I think I think that my employees feel that way too. Yeah. So that I would say that's definitely what I'm the most proud of for sure.
All right, Jess, do you have a lightning round set up for us?
I do. Are you guys ready? Or are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Because I got inspired by your outfit. What is your favorite season?
Oh man. Well, I would used to say summer, but I really enjoy winter now. I started snowboarding when I first met my husband, and I'm like, oh, I like winter. So
Oh, so fun.
It's a yeah, I'm not sure. Summer or winters. I could probably summer.
The two extremes.
Yes.
What is your go-to coffee order?
Go-to coffee order. Just
Very
black
busy woman.
coffee. Yeah. Just a
Nice.
black coffee.
I love it.
Yeah.
She's
Nothing
okay.
fancy.
I'll take a black coffee. It's my business and
No.
township meeting.
Exactly. You're being authentic to yourself again. Like you got your black coffee, you got your like this is what you do. You don't need to be like posting on Instagram, all the frou stuff.
Fancy.
What is the best tool to have as a business owner? This can be anything.
The best tool. I mean, the internet is really helpful, right? Like I didn't have to pay to put myself through school. I just simply went on and used that, to my advantage of researching. So I think that was
awesome.
super helpful.
I love it. I constantly, there's so many people in my life, they're like, they'll ask me questions. I'm like, and I find the answer for them. They're like, how'd you do that? I'm like, I literally just Googled what you said.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, you can do so much with that. This next two questions we ask everybody.
Okay.
So we are huge small business supporters, and we love to get the word out for anybody and everybody who's awesome. So what's your favorite small business?
My favorite small business.
It can be local, online, whatever.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I love all of the small businesses that are on my street. We're on like a little downtown area, and it's starting to build up with some great spots. So maybe I can give you a couple of those ones.
Yeah.
Brown Dog Cafe, which is fantastic. Lesbi Veggies, a vegetarian gluten-free spot, so good. New place just opened up, Burger Time, which is like a feel like 80s arcade game, and they just do burgers and hot dogs and tots and all kinds of things. So that's a really cool spot. And I feel like there's one more. Oh, and Red, White, and Brew, which is a brewery that just opened up on our street. Yeah, so they're a bunch of cool guys. Love them.
Where is your shop located? Like what
It's
town?
in Audubon, New Jersey.
Okay, got it.
And then tell us the name of your. Sorry.
Well, yeah, we were gonna get there.
So
I was just gonna say,
sorry, so sorry.
whenever I come up next, I need to come visit all of those.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
The last question is, what is your favorite thing about you?
My favorite thing about me. Man, you're hitting these are hard hitting questions.
It starts really easy. And then
Yeah, this is deep. I would say my favorite part about me is just like my sensitivity and the way that I'm able to really empathize with people, and feel for them and connect with them. I think that is like one of my most powerful
I
things.
love that. Because
Yeah.
so many people look at sensitivity as not, a
Weakness.
great
That's
attribute, but it's
I mean,
huge.
that's what I've
It's a
like
huge
learned to
strength.
turn that into a positive. Like growing up,
Yeah.
being so sensitive, it was kind of taught to me as you're weak, you got to toughen up, you got to toughen
Mhm.
up, you got to toughen up. And then I kind of came to this spot where I was like, you know what? It's not a bad thing. It's actually a really good thing because I think that we need more people that can be empathetic and be compassionate and then can sit and just listen to what someone has going on and to really connect on a human like raw level. So I've taken
Yeah.
that sensitivity and I'm like, it's a good thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love it. Own it. And then like Ciara was asking, what's the name of your barbershop and where can people find you?
Yeah. So Brigandi's Barbering Company in Audubon, New Jersey. The little spot.
And what about on Instagram?
Instagram is Brigandi's Barbering Co. And then my personal Instagram is Game of Combs.
I love it.
Little twist.
I'll put
That's
those in
awesome.
the show notes as well, so you can find those there.
Perfect.
And then right before we close out, I just want to ask one more question, which
I was gonna say, do you want to
is
record that after?
I think we could add it. I like it as part of the show.
Okay.
And
That's
that
fine.
because otherwise I'll forget about it. Okay, so our word of the year is balance. So what does balance mean to you? And if you could start it with balance to me, or balance means, or whatever.
Yeah. So balance to me means living intentionally, setting boundaries that help create a better space that I can make choices that are intentional so that I can live with more balance within my life. I mean, I think there's a lot of different aspects of life to balance. So I think when you create the boundaries and you live more intentionally, that opens up the space to hold for balance.
I like that a lot.
Mhm.
All right. Well, thank you, Ariel, for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you
It's
so much for having me. It was very nice to meet you, Jess.
Yeah, you too.
And thank all of you for listening and coming back again and again. I hope you guys are just as inspired by these entrepreneurial stories as I have been. This has been such a fun theme. So just a reminder, we would also love for you to be part of the show. If you can send us what balance means to you. You can either do an audio clip, or if you're a little nervous to be on a podcast, for one, like Ariel said, it's not so bad. But for two, if you are still a little shy, you can write out what balance means to you, and we might feature you at the beginning of the show. So, and you can send that to hello@inrawlife.com.
Until next week, I hope that you guys are taking notes, listening, and getting whatever it is that you listening need from these episodes, whether you're an entrepreneur or a 9-to-5er or have other dreams, whatever it is. And I hope that you are brave enough to stand up and be your authentic self, like Ariel here is, and do what's right for you. There's nothing funny this weekend.
Do you want to say your bye?
Bye.
All right. And that's it.
Awesome.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was so much fun.
Yeah.